Today we'll talk about the internal structure of the spinal cord. Internal structure of the spinal cord is divided into two symmetrical halves by means of a ventral and median fissure. Ventral and median fissure. This is what you are seeing is the antral median fissure, also called as anterior median fissure. Okay. And the posterior side is called as posterior median sulcus or septum. Into this, the pyometer forms a septum. It's one of the modification of the pyometer. So you have got an anterior median fissure and a posterior median septum. Okay, and posterolaterally we have posteromedian sulcus. Okay, posteromedian sulcus. Okay. So this is the internal structure of the spinal cord. It is divided into two equal symmetrical halves, right and a left halves, by the presence of anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus. Okay, and into this the pyometer dips, which is called as posteromedian septum. Okay, and this spinal cord is divided into internally into an outside whitish thing which you are seeing is called as white matter, and the bluish one which looks like a butterfly is called as gray matter. This gray matter is in the form of a butterfly. As the butterfly has got wings, it looks like the same way. So towards the anterior median fissure, the butterfly like thing which is blue in color, this is called as anterior horn, and posteriorly the elongated ones is called as posterior horn, and centrally you can see a whitish circle which is called as central canal. Lateral to this you are seeing two more extensions. These are called as lateral horns. So the gray matter is divided into a posterior horn, a bulging ventral horn or anterior horn, and laterally placed lateral horns. Usually the level of the spinal cord varies at different levels. It's cervical, thoracic, lumbar and sacral. You know the sympathetic outflow starts from thoracolumbar region. So the lateral horns are mostly present in the thoracic region up to L1. Okay. So this is the lateral horn. By seeing the lateral horn, you can identify whether it is a thoracic segment of the spinal cord or cervical segment or sacral segment of the spinal cords. Okay. And coming to the white matter is divided into three parts: anterior funiculus, lateral funiculus and posterior funiculus. Between the anterior median fissure and the gray column, you can see the anterior funiculus. Between the gray column and the posterior column, we can see the lateral funiculus. And between the posterior median septum and the posterior column, you can see the posterior funiculus. So white matter is divided into posterior funiculus, lateral funiculus and anterior funiculus. And this is the central canal of the spinal cord, through which the CSF traverses the gray commissure. The canal is lined with ciliated simple columnar epithelium. We have already shown to you previously in the histology section. Superiorly, the column is continuous with the central canal of the closed part of the medulla oblongata. Inferiorly, in the conus medullaris, it expands slightly to form the terminal ventricle. Now coming to the gray matter. The spinal gray matter is divided into three halves: anterior, lateral and posterior horns. And the neurons, it consists of all the neuronal cell bodies and classified by a great scientist named as Rexid, and it is named under him as Rexid's pattern, and it is called as Rexid's laminae, and they are numbered from 1 to 10. So we'll study about it and what are the types of neurons, neuronal cell bodies and the functions of these neuronal cell bodies. As you know, these are all on towards the anterior side or anterior horn. We have the motor neurons, whereas in the lateral horn we have the sympathetic neurons. Okay. and in the posterior horn. Posterior horn is mostly meant for sensory. So we have the sensory neurons. The cell bodies of the multipolar neurons, and plenty of it is made up of number of multipolar neurons. The types of neurons present are multipolar. You know what is multipolar. And we have number of interneurons, which are called as Renshaw cells, which are making up the gray matter. The gray matter is further divided into the anterior horn. If you can see, is short and bulbous. The neurons in the anterior horn are the lower motor neurons. These neurons are called as lower motor neurons because they are present in the spinal cord. The upper motor neurons are the one which are present in the cranium or the brain. Okay. The neurons which are divided into, and these neurons are subdivided into alpha neurons and gamma neurons. The alpha neurons supply the extrafusal fibers of the skeletal muscles. The gamma neurons supply the intrafusal fibers of the muscle spindles. This I have already told you during the types of neurons. Okay. The anterior horn shows central group of neurons, medial group and lateral group. Central group, which is marked by the dotted lines. Okay. So we have the medial group, central group and lateral group. The neurons of the central group in the upper 5 cervical segments form the spinal nucleus of the accessory nerve. This you have to remember. So accessory nerve is 11th cranial nerve. So from the 5 cervical segments, that means C1, C2, C3, C4 and C5. They form the spinal nucleus of the accessory nerve. Accessory nerve has got a cranial component and a spinal component. So upper 5 cervical segments of the central group of these anterior horn cells gives rise to the spinal nucleus of the accessory nerve. And the 4th cervical segment, most of the 4th cervical segment also forms the phrenic nucleus. The neurons in the medial group, these are present throughout the spinal cord and they supply the striated muscles of the neck and trunk. The lateral group of neurons are confined to the cervical, whereas the lateral group which are confined, they are only confined to the cervical and lumbar enlargements of the spinal cord. You know what is cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. So those are meant for the limb muscle. So hence the lateral group are present only in the cervical and lumbar region. Okay. The ventrolateral group in the first and second sacral segments, they are called as on-off nucleus. Ventrolateral group. Okay. The neurons in this group, they supply the perineal muscles. That means anal muscles and the urethral muscles. Hence damage to this on-off nucleus results in rectal and urinary incontinence. So during any accidents which are occurring at this level, first and second sacral segments, where you have specialized group of this ventrolateral nucleus. Okay, ventrolateral nucleus is called as on-off nucleus. So many times during accidents, which where the bikers get most of the accidents, there is a rectal and urinary incontinence because due to the injury to this nucleus, which is called as on-off nucleus, and it is a main question sometimes asked to you in your exams, NEET exams. The posterior, coming to the posterior horn. The posterior horn is very narrow and tapering, as you have already seen. Its tip touches the surface of the spinal cord. You can see it here. Its tip touches the surface of the spinal cord. It is divisible into apex, head and neck, head, neck and base. Apex, head, neck and base. Okay. it contains all the sensory neurons. Okay, the second order neurons. The first order neurons are present in the dorsal horn, and these neurons are named as, which is present at the apex is called as substantia gelatinosa, at the head is called as nucleus proprius, in the neck and basal region you have the nucleus dorsalis. And what is the function of each and every nucleus? I hope you know them. Substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius, nucleus dorsalis or Clark's column, and visceral afferent column. Okay, the intermediate or lateral horn is composed of intermedio-medial nucleus and intermedio-lateral nucleus. The intermedio-lateral nucleus is equal to preganglionic sympathetic nucleus, which extends from T1 to L2 of the thoracolumbar outflow. The intermedio-medial nucleus is present in the segments from S2 to S4, that is sacral segments, and is equal to preganglionic parasympathetic nucleus, or it is also called as sacral parasympathetic outflow. And coming to the Rexit pattern, the laminae of the Rexit is divisible into 10 columns, which are indicated by Roman numerals. This is sometimes asked for you for 5 marks, to draw a neat label diagram with Rexit pattern. So laminae 1 starts from the sensory column. Laminae 1 is at the tip of the posterior horn, that is at the apex. Laminae 2 corresponds to the substantia gelatinosa. Lamina 3, 4, 5 and 6 correspond to the nucleus proprius. Lamina 7, which is brown, you can recognize it, corresponds to the lateral horn in T1 to L2 segments. This laminae also contains the Clark's column or dorsal nucleus just above it at the base of the sensory horn. Laminae 8 occupies most of the anterior horn, that is, it includes the medial nuclei of the anterior horn. But in segments of cervical and lumbar, it occupies the medial part of the anterior horn. Okay. Laminae 9, it corresponds to the motor neurons within the central neurons of the anterior horn. Laminae 10 corresponds to the substantia gelatinosa centralis, or a part of the small grey matter which is surrounding the central canal. So this is called a substantia gelatinosa centralis, which is around this. So this is the Rexit pattern, and this is the diagram where you can see the neurons, neuronal nuclei, both together. If you practice these two diagrams, two parts of the same diagram, that is Rexit pattern, and also both of them will be very much useful to you in your exam. So after knowing the Rexit pattern and also the distribution of the anterior, posterior and lateral horn cells, which are motor neurons in the anterior horn, and ventromedial and ventrolateral nucleus on the lateral horn, and also posterior horn for sensory, we will now study the functional characteristics of each of the neurons which are present within the grey matter. Coming to the anterior horn cells, what is the functional characteristic of the anterior horn cells? These anterior horn cells which are present within the anterior horn, they form the lower motor neurons, and there are certain rules for this lower motor neurons. It forms the final common motor pathway. It is also called as Sherrington's laws, which you can study in the physiology. All impulses which reach from the muscle must pass through these neurons. So whatever the impulse you get from all the muscles, the whole of your body, should reach through these neurons. So these are the lower motor neurons which are present in the anterior horn. These neurons cannot generate any impulse, but they help in relay of this impulse. they can transmit the impulse from the other sources, local sources, like through posterior route, superficial reflexes, through muscular afferents in the posterior roots, tendon reflexes. They can carry the tendon reflexes. Okay, they can carry the tendon reflexes. They help in maintaining the muscle tone. These are the local influences which they occur. And coming to the distant influence. Distant influence is from the motor cortex, which helps in taking up the volitional movements. From the motor cortex, that is higher center, that is cerebral cortex. They also get some influences from the corpus striatum, volitional and unconscious automatic motor activities. So when you are walking, you can automatically move your hands, and also some of the automatic activities which you can perform without knowing to the central brain. From the cerebellum, they are also influenced by the cerebellum. They are also influenced by the vestibular nuclei equilibrium. Okay, so these are the main influences. So it cannot transmit any impulse, but they can transmit the impulse coming from the other sources. It may be from the local sources, that is through the posterior route, which are coming from the plantar reflexes. Examples are plantar reflexes, cremasteric reflex, abdominal reflexes, corneal reflexes, or these things. Okay, and also from the muscles, tendon reflexes, which help in maintaining, and also muscle reflexes, which help in maintaining the muscle tone. And they are also influenced by the higher centers like cerebral cortex, corpus striatum, the cerebellum, or the vestibular nuclei. What are the factors which can influence or damages that can occur to these anterior horn cells? One is due to injuries, due to any motor vehicle accidents, or chemical poisoning like lead and arsenic, or metabolic poisoning, or also some viral infections, mainly the polio. Polio is the main condition which selectively affects the anterior horn cells. It is also called an infantile paralysis. Apart from this, tetanus toxin. Tetanus toxin also influences the anterior horn cells. So what will happen if these anterior horn cells are damaged? There will be loss of movement. That means the reflexes, voluntary reflexes are lost. There is paralysis, and it leads to partial paralysis also. But they are influenced by the higher centers. The muscles can move, but it will be in a rigid manner. Muscles supplied by this will be, because the tone is lost. They voluntarily maintain the tone of the muscle. So this tone is lost. So they become weak. The muscles become weak, and they get atrophied. Muscles will show abnormal electrical activity during any testing. And this is what you can see, the tendon reflexes. This is called as stretch reflexes. You can see how it is affected. The intrafusal fibers, this they are testing the quadriceps muscle. You can see the intrafusal fibers which take the sensation to the posterior horn, and from the posterior horn it is towards the Clark's column, and then reaches the anterior horn cell. They give the gamma efferents. Okay. So this is the alpha, which gives to the muscle, which helps in making a movement. This is the stretch reflex. So reflex which helps in maintaining the muscle tone. Intrafusal fibers, gamma neurons, and alpha motor neurons influenced by the external muscle spindles. Muscle spindle, that is what you are seeing, is the muscle spindle. Okay, most of it you can study in the physiology. The horn the posterior horn forms the sensory part of the nucleus. Here we have posterior marginal nucleus at the tip, substantia gelatinosa, nucleus proprius, and Clark's column. They form the sensory part of the gray matter. And as I told you already, they form the secondary order neurons. The nuclear groups are among them. Coming to the substantia gelatinosa, it is also called as substantia gelatinosa Rolando. It is present at all the levels of the apex of the posterior horn, and it is mainly it receives the sensations of pain and temperature from the dorsolateral tract and give rise to a part of the lateral spinothalamic tract. Remember, the neurons which come from the dorsal horn cells, they take the pain and temperature sensations which relay into this substantia gelatinosa. From this substantia gelatinosa, it is also made up of number of neurons. Okay, so they form the second order neurons. From this second order neurons arise the spinothalamic tract. Because it carries the pain and temperature, they relay onto the tract called as lateral spinothalamic tract, which is present in the white matter. Okay, so it is present throughout the spinal cord, and throughout the spinal cord from cervical to sacral region or coccygeal sacral region, and further above, that means for the head and neck region, this substantia gelatinosa nucleus is replaced by spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve from further head and neck region. That means spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve takes care of pain and temperature sensations from your head and neck region. So the continuation of the substantia gelatinosa Rolando of the spinal cord is continuous above with the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, which is very important for you to note down. Coming to the nucleus proprius, or the other big nucleus which you are seeing, is also called as dorsal funicular nucleus. It lies ventral to the substantia gelatinosa and forms the main mass of the posterior horn, and receives all the dorsal roots which are conveying the touch, pressure, and unconscious proprioceptive and a small amount of pain sensation. So it is receiving the signals of touch, pressure, proprioceptive, that is unconscious proprioceptive, which you receive while you are sitting, you don't know that it is painful, and the pain sensation. It gives rise to three important tracts. So that second order neurons give rise to three tracts. They are anterior spinothalamic, anterior spinocerebellar, and lateral spinothalamic, part of the lateral spinothalamic. So anterior spinothalamic, anterior spinocerebellar tracts. Okay, so we have one of those very small nucleus which is called a posterior marginal nucleus at the tip you are seeing, that is at the apex. Okay, we don't have much influence, but they say it is a part of the substantia gelatinosa. And coming to the nucleus dorsalis or the Clark's column, this is what you are seeing. It is situated in the basal part of the posterior column and extends from 8th cervical to 3rd to 4th lumbar segment. That means it extends from 8th cervical vertebra to L3 or L4 segments. It receives unconscious proprioceptive sensations and gives rise to totally only unconscious proprioceptive sensations, not touch, pain or pressure. Okay, and it forms a posterior spinocerebellar tract. So this is the importance of the posterior column nuclei. So if you know these posterior column nuclei, anterior column nuclei, and what are the first order and second order neurons, you can easily study much about the white matter, which I'll deal with in the next class. Okay, so here you have a 5 marks question.